Assalamualaikum and hi students. This video is for the second part for chapter number 11 entitled Transportation Vascular Plant. In this second video, I will continue our lecture class to discuss about transportation of water and mineral into xylem in plant root tissue. Okay, continue the topic on transportation of water and mineral into the xylem. Water and mineral to pass into the root hair cell, they must pass through the root cortex, first via symplast or apoplastic roots. Later on, mineral already in symplast, when they reach endodermis, they can continue to pass into the vascular cylinder. Moreover, discussion on transport of water and mineral into the xylem. Mineral that reach endodermis via the apoplast will be blocked by the waxy Casparian strip of the endodermal wall. So what do we mean by Casparian strip here? So, Casparian strip is a waxy substance called samarin that present on the wall of endodermal cell. This waxy region, known as Casparian strip, forces water and solute input for the mineral to cross the plasma membrane of endodermal cell instead of slipping between the cells and enter the still air symplast part. Figure in this slide show an overview transportation of water and mineral from soil to vascular tissue, which is xylem vessel in the plant root organ. All information already discussed in previous slide. But for summary, 3 scale or level on transportation of water and mineral in plant root tissue, which are through apoplast, symplast, and transmembrane mechanism in epidermal tissue layer belong to root hair and cortex tissue layer. Later, the water and mineral will pass through the epidermal tissue layer, but symplast mechanism only because of the presence of Casparian strip before enter xylem vessel. Next slide, this one, okay, that we want to discuss about another genetic alkyne that can be derived from this chapter number 11. So at the end of this topic, the next topic on chapter number 11, you should be able to explain the mechanism of water transport from the root to the shoot, describe factors that affect transportation rate, and lastly, explain the mechanism that controls stomata organism. Based on information in this slide, plant lost a lot of water molecule in the process of evaporation of water from the leaf and other area part of the plant that is called transpiration. Due to a lot number of water molecules inside the plant tissue, therefore, the transpired water must be replaced by the water transport up from the root organ belong to that plant. Next, we will continue our discussion for the chapter 11 for the next slide, which is this one. Okay, based on this slide, okay, factor affecting the essence of xylem sap. So what do you mean by xylem sap here? So xylem sap is one of the factors, as I said just now, that affect the transportation of water and mineral inside the plant tissue. So one of that factor, as I said just now, xylem sap. So xylem sap here is its meaning that direct solution of water and dissolved mineral, and other factors that affect the transportation of water and mineral inside the plant tissue, which is rises to the height of more than 100 meters in the tallest plant. Based on title for this slide, pulling xylem sap, the transportation cohesive tension mechanism, water is pulled outward by negative pressure in the xylem. Xylem sap, as I said in previous slide, contains with the water and solute, which is one example of solute that present in water sap, which is mineral, rises against the gravity without the help of any mechanical pump. The xylem sap is largely pulled outward by transportation cohesion tension mechanism, also called transportation pull. According to the transpiration addition cohesion tension mechanism for the water transport in xylem, water evaporating through the stomata produce a tension or negative pressure that pull the water in the column form outward the xylem vessel from the root to the shoot. This column is maintained by hydrogen bonding between water molecule and cohesion, and the hydrogen bonding between water molecule and the molecule that make up the cell wall, okay, of the xylem, and this kind of mechanism or process that we call addition. Continue our discussion on transpirational pull. A transpirational pool could be simply defined, as a biological process in which the force of cooling is produced inside the xylem tissue. This force helps the outward movement of water into the xylem vessel. In this process, loss of water in the form of vapor through the leaf are observed. The flow of water outward the xylem vessel towards water potential factor. So, what do we mean by water potential factor here? So, water potential factor means that is the measure of the potential energy in the water, and this free energy causes the water to move from one area to another area. As we discussed in previous slide, loss of water by evaporation reduces the pressure of the liquid water within the leaf relative to the atmospheric pressure. This reduced pressure pulls liquid water out of the soil and up the xylem to maintain hydration in leaf tissue. Figure in this slide describe the generation or development of transpirational pool in the leaf. The first step is, in transpiration, water vapor shown as blue dot diffuse from the moist air spaces of the leaf to the drier air outside their stomata. At first, for the second type, for the transportational pool happen in leaf tissue, the second step, at first, the water vapor lost by the transportation is replaced by evaporation from the water film that coat mesophyll. The third step, the evaporation of the water film causes the air-water interface to retreat further into the cell wall and to become more curved. This curvature increases the surface tension and the rate of transportation process. Next, for the fourth step, for the transportation process, the increases surface tension shown in step 3 pull water from surrounding cell and air spaces. And last step in transportation pull mechanism of process, water from the xylem is pulled into the surrounding cell and the air spaces to replace the water that was lost in tissue. Title for this slide, Cohesion and Adhesion in the Ascent of xylem sac. The transpirational pool on xylem sac is transmitted all the way from the leaf to the root tip and even into the soil solution. Transpirational pool is facilitated by cohesion of the water molecule to each other, so water column rises unbroken, and addition of the water molecule to the xylem vascular tissue. For this slide entitled Exchange of Xylem sac, water molecule form an unbroken chain, or it will form water column as they move from the root to stomata. Water potential decrease from the root of the stem to the leaf to atmosphere when water follow the potential gradient until it exits the stomata into the atmosphere, which has extremely water potential. So what do we mean water potential here? Water potential is the measure of potential energy in the water and drive the movement of water molecule through plant tissue. Based on figure in this slide, water will move from the area of higher water potential, for example, root xylem, whereby it consists of water potential value at about negative 0.6 megapascal, and then it will move to the area of the lower water area, which is outside air, to the environment, which it has the water potential at about negative 100 megapascal. Xylem sac exchanged by the bark flow, a review. The movement of xylem sac against gravity is maintained by the transpiration, cohesion, tension mechanism. Transpiration lowers water potential in the leaf, and this generates negative pressure, or that we call tension, that pulls water up through the xylem. This is no energy cost to bark flow of the xylem sac in plant tissue. In this slide entitled Pushing Xylem sac Root Pressure. At night, when transpiration is very low, root cell continue pumping mineral ion into the xylem of the vascular cylinder, lowering the water potential. Water from the soil flows into xylem from the root cortex in large amount, this generating root pressure. A push of xylem sac that sometimes causes more water to enter the leaf that is transpired resulting in quotation. Now we want to discuss about quotation. Quotation is the process of secretion of water droplet or xylem sap on the tips or edges of the leaf of the some vesicular plant. In the small plant, root pressure could result in potentially harmful water pressure boil up at night when stomata are closed. Many herbaceous plants have special opening on the leaf margin or edges called hydatops. This allows root pressure water to escape, forming lovely little beads of dew overnight and preventing cell fracture due to much water pressure. This process is known as quotation, and its results are generally observable only in the early morning when humidity is relatively high.